The general markets were mixed today, but I think the main takeaway was the dollar going up, and more notable was silver getting absolutely demolished. So we're going to take a look at that and more. Let's get straight into it. So S&P flat, small hammer, did rise quite a bit off its low, but kind of an insignificant day, but slightly bullish, if I can say that, even though it was a red day because the hammer end closed near high of day. Nasdaq was the strongest one. Obviously, yesterday's candle was quite good. They again closed above resistance, so continuation is not the most surprising of things. Looks like it's going to go for that 330 to 335-ish zone. Let's see. A banking crash could reverse that, and we're going to get to that because that's one day away. But that was the only green of the four major markets. Dow Jones was red, so following the S&P again, but actually weaker than the S&P, right? If I just quickly switch to the S&P, you can see how that was a bit more bullish. So the Dow's looking actually a little weaker, more now than at any other time in the last couple of trading days that I can think of. So the Dow Jones starting to decouple a bit from the S&P and look weaker. And again, the weakest one is the Russell, still below, of course, because it was another red day, below the descending. It's never really been above it, despite yesterday's open. So yeah, a bit more of the same as yesterday, where the Nasdaq was green, everything else was kind of, not green, let's say, with the Russell being the weakest. So that's the major four markets. Let's look at the banks. Banks were all red. The seniors were basically flat, just slightly red, but closing near high of day, not bad, but still weak. Look where we're trading. And remember, the market's gone up, 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 up. So as soon as you go down, this thing is testing lows and flushing straight away. And that's the XLF, that's the seniors. KBE, very weak, down 1.5%, one day away from testing its low. So, but KBE is kind of the middle ground for me. Go straight to the KRE. Just, it's always weaker. Look at this, close at low of day, upside down, shooting star, whatever you want to call it. But for me, or upside down hammer, horrible looking candle. The high of day, we're far from that. We're closed near low of day, and we're basically one day away from testing the lows. And these lows should have been quite strong. I mean, we bounced quite well. We had Pacific West Bank again down sort of 20%. I think it's some report about there being more outflows than they had initially reported. What a surprise. All these regional banks will suffer outflows. And why keep your bank in why keep your money, in a regional bank? The ones that give you all these loans, and they provide sort of managers that you can speak to. So the regional banks really are like 70% of the loan distributors, and they really are the engine to the small businesses of America. And these policies, well, the fact that you're raising rates and now all these losses in the regional banks are piling up and they're starting to be more realized is forcing basically the depositors, people, these small businesses that have their money in these regional banks that have more than 250,000 that are not guaranteed. Why leave your money in the bank when you can just send it to a senior big bank, too big to fail, and there you're going to have it more secured. So it just makes sense that the outflows continue. So for me, KRE, one day away from testing the lows. Maybe we don't crash below because it's a bit of a support zone. You can see I've gone through this already several times, but whether it happens or not tomorrow, and I don't know, the markets are moving fast, or maybe it's next week. I think we're going to close below this, let's say 30, 34, but really what you want is below this low here, this particular candle. So let's say below 33, 40, whatever it is. Once you have that candle close here, below 34, definitely you're going to accelerate to the downside. And these are COVID lows. I mean, some stocks have taken out their COVID lows some time ago, but this is an ETF for the regional banks. This is the banking system. This is the financial crisis sort of singing a loud song over here if you start going down. So again, it's the same thing. I hope it's not too boring, but watch the Russell and definitely watch the KRE, the small regional banking ETF. that could really send everything down. In fact, it will. That's what I think is going to happen. So anyway, that's the markets, that's the banks. Let's go straight to interest rates. I don't want these videos to be too long, and we've always got a lot to go through. So interest rates, you know, they were, okay, the 1 year is always special. You can see it was kind of flat, a total doji, but not necessarily a reversal. But look, we're at this ascending. So the fact that it found a bit of support near this ascending suggests it, for me, they want to go up. But when the market's going down, today was not a market down day, but watch out with the banks, huh? We're always 1 day away from, or a couple of hours away from the banks just flushing, and we're always one tweet away from the banks flushing, even though they want to make it illegal to short sell banks and to tweet and, you know, oh, this crisis is caused by social media. No, it's not. It's debt, it's treasuries being bought, and it's interest rates going up. But the 1 year for me wants to go up, but look, when you have markets getting crashed, rates just go down because everyone's buying bonds. So I could understand a big drop any day if there's panic. The 2 year, I mean, look, it was a red day technically, but, you know, off the lows, good bounce. You can see already how the 2 year is much more different to the 1 year, nowhere near as bullish. And it gets worse, the 5 year, look at this. Again, slight hammerish, but, you know, it did bounce off support. And, you know, remember after this flush, I said it will take time for the chart to redraw itself and for patterns to become more obvious. Now it's pretty obvious. I mean, to me anyway, you know, these two lines I've had there for a while. So I'm considering these trend lines pretty credible. And again, we bounced off it, but look, it's getting lower and lower. I think the 5 is the weakest one, actually. If I go to the 10 year, don't think that looks as weak, but still, you know, you can see the trend line is pretty close to support. So, you know, lower highs. I mean, I could draw this one in. I don't need to, but I don't need to. But, you know, lower highs and not necessarily lower lows, but sort of same sort of lows. So watch out for this 3.3% zone for the 10 year. 30 year took a bit of a drop today, but again, still outperforming overall the other yields. So again, I would say it was yields down, not by too much, a bit more as you go further out in the curve. But again, I feel like yields want to go up, but, you know, I think people are sensing a bit of panic too. So it's like a tug of war, you know, yields want to go up because of the Fed, but at the same time, people are buying bonds out of fear, and therefore yields are going down. And any day you could have a massive drop in yields because a panic day could send everything down. And I always think that we're not far away from such a real flush. And remember, just to go back to the Nasdaq, for example, the S&P, whatever, this is the complacency. The drop is the real thing. It's warranted. We've been going up for 2 decades, and it's all on cheap money, and that is ending. Don't fight the Fed. And here we're having a very weak ascending grind sideways, which is complacency. And I just expect a bit of a flush, you know, as soon as we drop. And I do think it will be the banking crisis that does it, you know, sideways. Oh, we're going up again. People looking at the Nasdaq. Oh, we're going up again. It takes 2 days. You close below the ascending, and you have this mother of all flushes, and then everyone gets back to reality. And, you know, staircase up, elevator down. So anyway, that's yields. Let's go straight to the dollar. Now, the dollar had a decent day. I would say that we still didn't close above the all-important resistance. And you can see how this descending line is kind of close to the horizontal. So to me, closing above the horizontal especially would be pretty decisive. And I'm going to say it's 102.25. Okay, but 102.3 would really do it. That would suggest going, I'm not going to say much higher, but going up more. Okay, so the dollar has been going sideways. It still hasn't done it. You know, you could have just another candle reversal tomorrow. We've got news every day. I think we have PPI today. Something going on tomorrow. I've totally forgotten. There's just so much going on. I've forgotten. But every day there's some sort of news event. Was it initial jobless claims and PPI today? There's something else going on tomorrow. Oh God, it escapes me again. Maybe you guys know. But point is, it will be another significant news event capable of swinging the dollar right back down, or performing the same sort of bullish candle up, and then definitely you're going to go a bit higher. And then we can talk about 103.5 and maybe we'll see, but 105. So watch out, the dollar's ready to go higher. Now let's go straight to commodities. Obviously, that had an effect on commodities. So copper smash. Yeah, I did say copper was pretty weak down here, you know, and I did say it probably will go to this level, and we did that in one day. In fact, we closed below it. So I remember mentioning that the ascending is so close that it might just go to the ascending. You know what? It probably needs to just go a little lower to touch, tag, and bounce off the ascending. We're almost there anyway, and there's probably going to be a bit more continuation, but who knows what happens to the dollar tomorrow? You know, if the dollar goes higher, if the markets go down and the dollar goes up, I think together that will hit copper more, and you could even venture below this ascending line, but it's all about the close. So still think you'll probably close above or at the ascending, but let's see. Finally, we have a direction at least. So copper down, and it's not the only one. Now, natural gas is one of the only commodities to have not gotten creamed in the face. It was green, definitely standing out there. But you know, natural gas has been pretty strange itself. Just a pure sideways day. We gave back a lot of the gains, so we didn't close near higher day. Not the most bullish candle, but green on a massive red day is bullish, I would say. But you know, I'm not very bullish. I just don't know what to expect from natural gas. I've got the trend lines. Let's just see what happens. I think if we close above this 2.5, nice number 2, then you'll probably get a very quick move up to 3. And if we close below 2.1, and obviously 2 would really do it, then we're definitely going lower. But anyway, I bought 2 out of 5 tranches, so I'm happy whatever happens. And actually, I still think if I had to choose that it's going to go up because, again, zoom out, you know. But I would love to be wrong. Oil, nice bounce still, little retracement on a day like today doesn't surprise too much. How far, how much lower will we go? You know, will the dollar have an effect? I don't think it will have too much of an effect. Will a market crash have an effect? Probably. And actually, if there's a market crash and everyone's selling everything, I really think gold will, gold too probably, but oil will just flush. And then you've probably got the SPR refilled. Perfect timing. But nothing really too much to speak of. You know, we had a nice bounce. We're going back down, but it'll be interesting in the next couple of trading days. If we do go lower, then it's time to, you know, sound the alarm, or at least for others. I'm not really in oil, so I don't mind. But if it starts to flush, I'm going to have to look at my oil stock to see if I can add, because I do think one flush from here, low 60s to wherever we go, actually, I'd have to check a bit more. I think that will be a really nice dip buy opportunity, because I do think, you know, next year or later this year, we're in the 90s. Uranium, just when I thought it got away from me, back down. But look, you know, it's made this bullish move already. It broke out. If I really zoom in, which I'm doing, I'm zoomed in. And now we're sort of retesting the breakout. Yes, we went below. It's not the strictest of breakout zones that I've drawn in here. You can be a little flexible, but you know, it can retest this descending, just like a lot of people think is happening in silver. I'll get to that later. No, but I think uranium, even if it went down again, a massive candle, I think this ascending zone should be support too. So uranium giving back a bit, but it's still not bearish. It's still slightly bullish, put it that way. So, but I'll wait and see. Me, I just hope that it absolutely gets mauled in the face and goes lower, but that's just me because I'm greedy and because I missed the train. Okay, gold and silver, obviously there was fireworks here to the downside. So gold not down too much. I mean, down 0.75% is something for gold. But, you know, even a 1% move isn't too much. But it closed. Again, this line here that I've drawn at 2015 really seems to be significant. You can see why I did it. I remember doing it several trading days ago. You know, these wicks here, I just said 2015, and then this candle where you closed above. And now it's a bit of the opposite. You close below. Now, you know, there's news tomorrow. Will the news swing it another way? Let's see. It's neither bearish nor bullish, not yet. it's kind of a gambler's game right now. I'd be inclined to say it's probably going to venture lower, maybe even test 2000, because, you know, it closed lower than it did. I mean, it closed near low of day. Obviously, we're going to get to silver, but look what happened to silver. And silver probably has a bit more downside left just because we closed at low of day. And, you know, maybe it wants to test 24, which will also happen to be the retest of this descending breakout, which is typical. A lot of people are saying it, but it's true. You know, you break out of the zone, you retest it, whether it's ascending, descending, but especially descending, you'll see this a lot. You know, retest, maybe even venture lower, but it's about to close. So maybe we close around about the descending, and then the next couple of trading days later, we start to move back up, and then everyone gets bullish again. Let's see. It depends on the dollar. It depends if there's a banking crisis, and if there is, what are the effects on gold and silver? So far, gold and silver go up, but, you know, today, for example, banking stocks, well, the KRE was down 2.5%, and we got our asses handed to us. So it's not acting as it was. I think silver was just, you know, people say manipulation. There's manipulation, but there's also manipulation to the upside. You know, when things go up, was this manipulation? No one said a single time it's manipulation, but as soon as it's down, it's manipulation. And even if it is, who cares? You're not going to be able to do anything about it. You know, try and trade it. And I didn't trade this well. I bought this zone up here like an absolute muppet. I rarely ever buy highs. I knew I was buying a high, but I also knew deep down that this was possible. So I never went too much in. I was heavier than I usually am. So it hurt a bit more than I usually. I mean, usually when I see this kind of a day, I'm very excited. I'm very happy. I'm buying, or I'm looking forward to buy when I think the low is in. I would have preferred if it didn't happen, put it that way. I do have lots on the sidelines, but I don't want to buy. And actually, there were some stocks that were really crushed, and I didn't buy them because I do think there might be a little more downside. Back to gold, you know, silver, if it tests 24 or even goes a little lower, and then closes around, I still think it might close around 24, because I do think it was very significant resistance, and therefore it'll be very significant support. I think a lot of people see this trend line, and I think it's real. And I think silver is still seriously underpriced. So I do think that 24 will be bought, but I do think also we'll venture below it first before we close at 24. That's what I think is going to happen. And for that same reason, I think gold will go lower. And it won't take much to go test 2000. Psychological, very close. It needs to catch up with silver on the downside. And the close is worse than any other close for some time. So why not? Question is, if gold goes to 2000, how much lower is silver going to go? Are we going to see gold down more than silver in percentage terms tomorrow? And maybe even more important than that, what's the dollar going to do? And what's the effect on gold and silver? And is there a banking drop, and will that help gold and silver? So you've got to check this all out. And, you know, once you're looking at all the charts, you make a decision, and either you, in my case, I will be adding. And I think, you know what, I think I might add to some senior miners. I love, you know, today, for example, if I'm very quickly gonna, actually, let me go to the GDX and GDXJ first. But what I was going to show you is certain miners like the seniors, the Agnico Eagles, the Barrick Golds, the Wheatons, the Newmonts, you know, the big boys. They're down, what, 1%, 2%. It's kind of a non-event. But then you look at, you know, some other silvers, like the ones I've been in the last 2 days that have been destroyed. Which one was, they weren't down too much today. There were one or two, like Mag Silver, that's 2 days in a row. It's gotten really smashed, but that's one of my weakest holdings. EXK, for example, Fortuna, you know, silver stocks, they got much more battered than the seniors. I mean, I think Barrick Gold was green pretty much. So, you know, GDXJ down 4 to 5%. That's a huge drop. So when you have these seniors unchanged, flat, down 1%, for me, that's a great day, even though you're down. But anyway, look, GDXJ, look at this double top stuff. Here's your support. Everyone can see it. You know, look at these candles here. So if silver goes to 24, if it goes lower, if gold tests, 2000, we're going to be at the lows, you know, for sure. Silver at 24, gold at 2000. equals the miners here. GDXJ, which has been weaker, by the way, than GDX. Look, GDX made it all the way up here. GDXJ didn't, but on the downside, they're in the same area again. So it's kind of caught up to one another. That's good. But again, you know, GDXJ, I expect it to be testing this low here once if gold gets to 2000 and if silver gets to 224 or lower. Let's see. If you lose support, close below, looking at the GDXJ 39, if you close below 39, or if you close below 33 on the GDX, you could start a run to the next level. Now, that would be interesting. That would still be a bullish chart, but it would damage it in the short term. And, you know, you'd have to find support, curl, go back up. You'd have to make sure gold and silver are doing the same. You'd have to see how the dollar is influencing it and whether you need the dollar to roll over and the markets. So that's really what I'm going to be watching tomorrow. I'm going to be watching the markets, obviously. I'm watching dollar, interest rates always, but mainly the dollar, to be honest. And then how gold and silver react to the miners, because we are at near support. I think we can get a little lower. Remember, the morning doesn't count too much. It's all about the open. Well, it's all about the close, really. But, you know, pre-market, you can get a lot of fake movements. And we have some news. So lots of things to compute. And I'll leave it there. It was a smash of a day. I think you all know that. You will see the trend lines. You see gold near 2000. You see the potential. You see what I've just said. Silver 24, the retest. Let's see what happens. I didn't buy anything today. It was a family day, and I think that was the right thing because we closed near low of day. And I think there might be a bit more downside. So sometimes it's good to go for a walk to close the screens or even look away. But I did that because I was forced to go. I had no choice. Forced family day. But I think in the end it was for the best. But let's see. We could have a rally straight away, and then I would have regretted it. But let's see what happens. I will just finish not doing large caps today on Bitcoin because it's having a bit of a, I don't want to say head and shoulders because this is like a double shoulder, if I can say that, like a Siamese twins or something. You've got this, shoulder over here, double shoulder over there. Whoops, that wasn't well done. And the head over here. But look, the neckline, very close. And, interesting, Bitcoin and the commodities, gold and silver, were all down today. I think it was like an anti-dollar move, just because the dollar went up. Not that Bitcoin really should be correlated to the dollar much. I mean, gold and silver, I totally understand. But, and also you had the banking stocks down. Again, Bitcoin, gold and silver would go up. So it is a bit strange. It's almost like it was targeted, but I don't believe in that stuff too much. But anyway, it is what it is. And look, I think Bitcoin, if you start closing below 26,500, this entire box area is done. It's time to trade in a different area, and that will be, maybe a little stop off here, bounce and there, and then who knows? We could go back here to the ascending, but let's just see what happens. But keep your eye on Bitcoin, even if you don't care or don't trade it or don't believe in it, because it could be a little significant to the other markets. Who knows? Does the Nasdaq start to go down if Bitcoin goes down? Okay, anyway, I'll end it there. Yesterday's video was way too long. I hope you appreciate today's video. Let's see what happens. But all eyes, gold, silver, and the miners for me tomorrow, definitely. And then I'll do a big recap portfolio videos on the weekend, and I'll look at some large caps. I want to do more videos. Anyway, have a good evening.